Our speaker is Patrick Ryman, Research Director of Procurement and Enterprise Applications at IDC, well-known analyst and expert in the procurement industry. Patrick will be presenting ROI, from GenAI, from intake to intelligent procurement.
So good morning. First of all, terrific event last night. Thank you. That venue was amazing. The dinner, the conversation, the band was fantastic. So terrific show, and thank you to our host. So I'm Patrick Raymond, Research Director for Procurement and Enterprise Applications at IDC. And I think we, procurement practitioners, have kind of a branding problem, because procurement, as used at IDC, is the full continuum of the spend management continuum, from P2P, sourcing, spend analytics, supplier relationship management, contract lifecycle management, and this new space I'll talk about we are calling spend orchestration. But to most people, you say procurement, and they have this image of this sleepy back office function. And people ask me, what do you do? What do you do for your work? And I said, well, I research and I write about procurement applications. And they, oh, cool. And it, almost like they feel sorry for me. And I want to say, no, you just don't get it. I mean, this is a hot space, right? There is so much happening, so much innovation, the application of digital technologies. It's really a hot space. And so I think that's really the challenge for all of us. It's a challenge to the analyst community, myself and Jeffrey from Forrester, to really continue to promote and elevate the role of procurement. So people understand what we do. So today is October 30th, and it's not even 2 years since, in November of 22, of course, ChatGPT was made publicly available. By the way, who knows what the GPT stands for in ChatGPT? Show of hands. 1, 2 people? What is it? It's generative pre-trained transformer. That's not important. I guess I'll ask another question is, how many of you use GenAI in your work in any fashion? So most of you. How many of you use it just in your personal life? Very good. So it was shortly after that, not even 6 months later, at a ServiceNow event, Jensen Huang was there. At the time, probably nobody knew who he was, right? Today, he's a tech mogul rock star. And he said, this is the greatest computational shift of our generation. And people may have thought at the time, that's quite a boast, and it's in his interest to promote it. His company directly benefits, but looking back, that seems like a pretty prescient comment. So it wouldn't be an analyst presentation without some survey data, and to put some slides up. I won't overwhelm you with these, but let's just start with what is a digital business? And this is how IDC defines a digital business. And the takeaway here is that most entities, the vast majority of entities, describe themselves as, yes, we consider ourselves to be at least somewhat a digital enterprise, with only, only 8% saying, no, we don't play in that space. And the same survey from about a year prior, the number that said they were not was about double what that is. So just for some context. So if we drill down a little bit more into GenAI, you see when we ask, and this is 6 months old, you ask, to what degree have you applied GenAI in your practice? You can see the AP and EU kind of lead North America, but only 10% worldwide are saying, no, we really haven't done anything yet with GenAI. So most entities, to some degree, say that, yeah, we are at least investigating it, or we're already investing significantly in GenAI. So I want to step back and go into the broader procurement application space for a moment. And I show this, and people fixate on the green line and say, oh, that's down, that's bad. This is a bad news slide. Well, it's not a bad news slide. It's actually a good news slide. So this is a forecast that we produce every year of the projected growth in revenue across the board for the procurement application space. It's important to remember this is a forecast, right? So each year the number gets higher from a higher baseline. So growth is a little bit tougher each year, number one. Number two, we take a very, very conservative approach to our estimates. But the takeaway here is look at the growth in revenue projected for the space at large. Now, procurement applications, this is a mature space, right? Ariba came out in '95. Zycus has been around for more than 2 decades. Coupa came out in 2005. It's a mature space, and on top of that, weekly, no exaggeration, we learn about new providers that are entering the space that we didn't even know about. And every time it's like, why didn't we know about these people? So there are still a rush of providers moving to the space to provide procurement applications. And so you step back, you think, well, why is this, sleepy back office function still growing at a very healthy clip 25 years in, 30 years in? And we think there are several reasons for that. First of all, procurement or spend management, however we want to term it, very simple in concept, but in practice it's hard. It's very hard. You have large, global, complex entities that it's difficult to gain visibility over that spend. And so, you have different geographies, different lines of business, and to get the insight and the compliance spend, it's a real challenge. In any given organization's procurement tech stack is oftentimes very, very complex with multiple providers. It is extraordinarily rare that you'll find an organization that is exclusively on one suite or one application. And that happens. I mean, that's just natural because entities make acquisitions, and you'll get a new line of business lead in, and they used a different application at their previous job, and they want to bring it in here. So it's really tough to keep track of the visibility across all the applications. And then the last reason for the continued growth in this space is the role of procurement has absolutely changed. There may have been a time when people just thought of procurement, or that's the function, well, I just need to buy something, so I go to procurement. But as you know better than I, that has absolutely changed. Sustainability challenges have fallen directly on procurement. Procurement is seen as to ensure that certainty of supply, and the multiple globally tumultuous events of 2-3 years ago, while they were painful for all of us, in truth, they were probably good for procurement as a practice because they elevated the role of procurement. So procurement has, as a result of these things, a much larger seat at the table, a more prominent voice. And this just shows, the change from last year. We increased the projected growth rate by, over 100 basis points. So again, that was last year's estimate compared to this year's estimate. And so it's very fluid, obviously, but again, this underscores just the strength and vibrancy of the procurement application space. So I'm going to shift now and talk about kind of the topic du jour in procurement, because in fact, last night I had several conversations about this very topic because it's top of mind for a lot of people. And Intake, you heard the announcement yesterday regarding the intake management. Intake is very popular. So intake, loosely, is just how do you absorb or ingest a request or an action to kick off activity, making that a seamless experience. And then moving ahead a little bit, spend orchestration is this class of provider that provides this orchestrated analytic layer that is designed to sit on top of the procurement tech stack and provide that orchestrated experience to conduct spend management activity. Now, a very wordy slide, and I do apologize for that. But I wanted to show this, to talk about this space a little bit, because this space is only about 4 years old. It's brand new. And literally 2 weeks ago, I had 2 conversations with 2 providers that I'd never heard of, both out of London, that are entering this space. There are a lot of providers that are rushing in, and that was Omnia and Vertice. So some names that you've heard in this space would be Upstream, Focal Point, Tonkean, LevelPath, Oral Lab, Zip, even ServiceNow. So when this space started, there were 2 camps. Yeah, that's a nice niche offering, and I can see the value, but yeah, maybe there'll be 1 or 2 survivors in the end. And the other camp said, this is totally disruptive. The full suite providers better see this as a threat and better prepare for it. So in practice, as things are playing out, it is resonating a little bit more than we really expected it to. And so we spent a lot of time in 2022, 2023, talking to our full suite clients saying, you need to think about your strategy for spend orchestration. And so the approach that they are taking, well, they're taking various approaches. One approach that they're taking is to partner with some of those names that I mentioned earlier, to kind of, in our view, kind of keep them at arm's length while they figure out what they're going to do. Another approach is to try to develop these capabilities organically. And that presents challenges from a technology perspective, architecturally. We're not sure that's the right approach. Another approach by one very well-known provider that I won't name is to do nothing and completely dismiss this threat and to just say, it's a fad, it's going to pass over. And then another approach, which you heard yesterday and then was announced earlier this year in Miami by Zycus, is they are integrating with teams to integrate the Zycus experience natively in Teams. Personally, we think that's a very good response to this market, because in our surveys, we always ask, what are the attributes that are most important to you when you're buying a procurement application? And top every time is a trusted brand. Trusted brand, right? Microsoft is a pretty trusted brand. So it bears watching, and who knows how it's going to play out. We do expect that there's going to be a shakeout, because while those providers are all slightly different, they're not wholly differentiated from each other. Their offerings are pretty similar. And so we think the ones that have the staying power are gonna maintain that staying power through marketing, and they're gonna have to have some deep pockets, right? So there's probably gonna be a shakeout in this space. But it bears watching, and it bears watching. What was it, last week? One of these providers, a massive Series D funding round that valued them at a eye-popping valuation. But that's good for all of us, because that shows that the investment community gets procurement and they want to invest in procurement. So again, it bears watching, but it's top of mind for a lot of people. So I want to talk about some of the key themes and things that are happening in the space. And I don't have my glasses, so I'm gonna have to turn around. Sourcing optimization and automation. Sourcing optimization is not new. This is where the user can input some attributes that are important to him or her and say, hey, I want to optimize for sustainability, or for my risk profile of my suppliers, or for savings, or I want to optimize, I just want suppliers from this geography. Very powerful. Sourcing automation, on the other hand, is not really common. Sourcing automation, there are a few point providers that have strong solutions in this space. And this is essentially letting AI, for lack of a better word, to conduct and run sourcing events in the background. You insert the parameter to say, this is what I want to do, and your, again, for lack of a better word, your sourcing automation chatbot conducts the event. And there are some strong tools in this space. Providers like Orchestro and Fair Market and Pactum, right? But we have not seen that yet in the full suite space. And so as a neutral analyst, it's not my job to promote any provider over any other, but I can also speak facts. And the fact is that we saw it yesterday with ANA. You know, Zycus is the first. There's no other full suite provider that is releasing a sourcing automation tool. And I had a sneak peek of this 2 weeks ago with Tejit, and I was blown away. It seems so logical to me. This is where procurement is going, and this is how AI should be leveraged to conduct this, and to have this native in a full suite, we think is very compelling. Generative AI, obviously talked about that, but what we're seeing now with respect to the suite providers is generally they're introducing some type of assistant. And it seems like the industry has settled upon Copilot, the Microsoft branded name. Everybody's using the word, I have a Copilot. So whatever you call it, it's this agent, if you will, to facilitate whatever you want to conduct, right? And so that's going to be the baseline table stakes expectation going forward for buyers. But what we haven't seen, and again, not promoting anybody, but just speaking fact, that this agentic approach, this agentic AI platform, that's compelling. and you know, you saw the demo yesterday where if you have not a task, but a function that you want to perform, you know how cool is that to see? I can drag and drop and build a workflow. Just grab this agent, grab that agent, grab that agent. That's value. That's compelling, and that's an approach that we think is a differentiator. If you want to start a fight amongst procurement practitioners, you walk into a room and say, category management is dead, right? Half the people are going to say, get out of here. And other people are going to say, yeah. I speak as a former category manager. So whatever we call it, this function will exist. And you know, the typical way category managers do their job is you interview all the stakeholders, you do your market assessment, you build a plan, you build your project plan. It's a 3-month process. Category management tools, you do that with a click of a button. You say, what are the most opportune categories if I want to save money? And it will spit that out for you with a full-blown plan. Here are your suggested sourcing events. Talk to these providers. Real value, the power of AI and automation in procurement. Informed, intelligent decision support, that is at the point of transaction, point of decision, excuse me. It's what are the implications if I decide this? What are the implications to our risk profile? What are the implications? What are my savings, right? So at the point of decision. And then lastly, PO collaboration. I just got the 5-minute sign. I'm not going to go deep into that. That's mostly tied to the direct side. But you think about bill of material orders, massive, hundreds of line items, hundreds if not thousands of SKUs. So there will necessarily be changes, delivery dates, order quantity, pricing. How do you possibly manage that and ingest all that information? Well, the way a lot of organizations do it is they have a team of analysts that sit there and take all this in and load it into spreadsheets and try to understand the implications of all these changes. PO collaboration tools do that on the fly, in real time, give a very impressive informational dashboard to automate that function for you. So I should have said this was a European study, and I want to thank Eliza from Microsoft from leveraging some IDC data yesterday, and she did give the attribution. So there are various data points you'll see out there. What is the return on investment from GenAI, right? She reported yesterday $3.50 back for every $1 invested, a 14-month ROI. You know, this survey said 2 to 3 times. So whatever the number is, there is a real return on that investment, and organizations are reporting that. They're saying, yes, we are seeing that return, and we think it's a worthwhile investment. So savings was, and always will be job one for procurement. That's a universal truth. But as you know, procurement is about, again, sustainability. Where did that fall? It fell right to procurement. Managing the risk profile, managing certainty of supply, right? The democratization of procurement, that's simply the concept that historically procurement applications were written for procurement people, right? And if you want to buy something, you went to procurement. But that's no longer the case, because the applications today are designed so intuitively and seamlessly that the goal is that that line of business end user, they can run a sourcing event. You know, if they need to do something, they can do it themselves, because we all know the procurement department is not gaining more headcount. And so that's the democratization of procurement. As I said, we're just getting started with automation and AI. And then my last slide, we are at 3.0, right? We are living in procurement apps 3.0. So, you know, unified spend management suites. Then we had the explosion of SaaS and best of breed that launched this eternal procurement debate: best of breed or full suite. Well, the pendulum now seems to be moving back to full suite, and we think one of the reasons for that, GenAI is kind of a great leveler in that, you know, the full suites leveraging AI, GenAI, providing a much more intuitive and seamless experience across the entire suite. So, you know, we think the pendulum is moving back to the suites. We'll see how that plays out. And then 3.0 would be the world we live in today, which is intelligent procurement. Or, you know, I saw Tagit's note yesterday, which I just like when Zycus came out with, you know, AI is the new AI is the new UI, which I thought I really liked. You know, yesterday we saw it was autonomous orchestration for deep value, and that captures it, because that's where procurement applications are going. This autonomous orchestrated experience, leveraging AI to deliver, to conduct transactions in the background, autonomous orchestration. And so you're going to continue to hear this word in many different contexts, orchestration, but we think it nicely summarizes where the space is, where it's going. So I think I'm on time. I'm going to wrap up here, and Appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for this really insightful presentation. I think both from a market perspective, but also the direction we're going.